Genius Kids. Cultivating love for learning.
Chapter 15. Lucy's visit to her father. "You have a visitor, you see," said Monsieur Defarge. "What did you say?" "Here is a visitor." The shoemaker looked up as before, but without removing a hand from his work. "Come," said Defarge. "Here is Monsieur, who knows a well-made shoe when he sees one. Show him that shoe you are working at. Take it, Monsieur." Mr. Lorry took it in his hand. "Tell Monsieur what kind of shoe it is, and the maker's name." There was a longer pause than usual, before the shoemaker replied, "I forget what it was you asked me." "What did you say?" "I said, couldn't you describe the kind of shoe, for Monsieur's information?" "It is a lady's shoe. It is a young lady's walking shoe. It is in the present mode." "I never saw the mode. I have had a pattern in my head." He glanced at the shoe with some little passing touch of pride. "And the maker's name?" said Defarge. Now that he had no work to hold, he laid the knuckles of the right hand in the hollow of the left, and then the knuckles of the left hand in the hollow of the right, and then passed a hand across his bearded chin, and so on in regular changes, without a moment's intermission. The task of recalling him from the vagueness into which he always sunk when he had spoken, was like recalling some very weak person from a faint. "Did you ask me for my name?" "Yes, I did. 105, North Tower." "Is that all?" "Word meaning. Shoemaker, one who makes or mends shoes. Knuckles, joints in the finger bones. Hollow, empty. 105, North Tower." With a weary sound that was not a sigh, nor a groan, he bent to work again, until the silence was again broken. "You are not a shoemaker by trade," said Mr. Lorry, looking steadily at him. His tired eyes turned to Defarge, as if he would have transferred the question to him, but as no help came from him, they turned back on the questioner. "I am not a shoemaker by trade?" "No, I was not a shoemaker by trade. I learned it here. I taught myself. I asked leave to." Finally, he had to change the instrument in his hand for his shoemaker's knife. It lay on that side of him, which was not the side on which she stood. He had taken it up, and was stooping to work again, when his eyes caught the skirt of her dress. He raised them and saw her face. The two spectators started forward, but she stayed them with a motion of her hand. She had no fear of his striking at her with the knife, though they had. He stared at her with a fearful look, and after a while his lips began to form some words, though no sound proceeded from them. By degrees, in the pauses of his quick and labored breathing, he was heard to say, "What is this?" With the tears streaming down her face, she put her two hands to her lips, and kissed them to him. "You are not the gaoler's daughter?" She sighed no. "Who are you?" Not yet trusting her voice, she sat down on the bench beside him. He recalled, but she laid her hand upon his arm. A strange thrill struck him when she did so, and visibly passed over his frame. He laid the knife down softly, as he sat staring at her. Her golden hair, which she wore in long curls, had been hurriedly pushed aside, and fell down over her neck. Advancing his hand a little, he took it up and looked at it. In the midst of the action his mind wandered, and, with another deep sigh, fell to work again at his shoemaking. But not for long. Releasing his arm, she laid her head upon his shoulder. After looking doubtfully at it 2 or 3 times, As if to be sure that it was really there, he laid down his work, put his hand to his neck and took off a blackened string with a scrap of folded rag attached to it. He opened this carefully on his knee, and it contained a very little quantity of hair. Not more than 1 or 2 long golden hairs, which he had in some old day wound off upon his finger. He took her hair into his hand again and looked closely at it. It is the same. How can it be? When was it? How was it? As the concentrated expression returned to his forehead, he seemed to become conscious that it was in hers too. He turned her full to the light and looked at her. Word meaning: weary, tired, trade, the business, instrument, a mechanical implement, conscious, awake. She had laid her head upon my shoulder. That night when I was summoned out, she had a fear of my going, though I had none, and when I was brought to the North Tower, they found these upon my sleeve. You will leave me them? They can never help me to escape in the body, though they may in the spirit. Those were the words I said. I remember them very well. He formed this speech with his lips many times before he could utter it. But when he did find spoken words for it, they came to him coherently, though slowly. How was this? Was it you? Once more, the 2 spectators started as he turned upon her with a frightful suddenness. But she sat perfectly still in his grasp, and only said, in a low voice, I entreat you, good gentlemen, do not come near us, do not speak, do not move. Hark! He exclaimed. Whose voice was that? His hands released her as her uttered this cry, and went up to his white hair, which they tore in a frenzy. It died out, as everything but his shoemaking did not die out of him, and he refolded his little packet and tried to secure it in his breast, but he still looked at her, and gloomily shook his head. No, 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 you are too young, too blooming. It can't be. See what the prisoner is. These are not the hands she knew, this is not the face she knew, this is not a voice she ever heard. No, no. She was, and he was, before the slow years of the North Tower, ages ago. What is your name, my gentle angel? Hailing his softened tone and manner, his daughter fell upon her knees before him, with her appealing hands upon his breast. Oh, sir, at another time you shall know my name, and who my mother was, and who my father, and how I never knew their hard history. But I cannot tell you at this time, and I cannot tell you here. His cold white head mingled with her radiant hair, which warmed and lighted it as though it were the light of freedom shining on him. Charles Dickens. Word meaning: sleeve, the part of a garment that covers the arm. Coherently, logically, grasp, to seize and hold firmly with the hands. Mingled, mixed or blended.
Like, share and subscribe.